my colleague said. Why wait for Modi's Bharat? Nehru's India should have arrived in 1961 when they led the non-alignment movement. But we all know who arrived then, and it wasn't us. Global arrival, ladies and gentlemen, changes the course of history. When the United States arrived, they rewrote the new global order after the World War II. When Russia arrived, they split the world into becoming a force to reckon with. China's arrival completely rattled the West economically, militarily, technologically. Arrival is not just being invited to the table. Arrival is being feared, respected, relied upon. And India is simply not yet in those corridors of power. Look, I've heard with genuine respect arguments for the House. Chandrayaan on the moon, fastest growing economy, G20, Global South, an Oscar here perhaps that we didn't hear about, an Olympic medal there. Great soft power, but soft power, ladies and gentlemen, is influence. It's not leadership. You could give me 1,000 numbers that say that we've arrived, and I could give you 1,000 more that say that we haven't. Who's writing the rules on global climate, tech, AI? Not India. When I was a student debater in my first year of college, since then we're debating that India deserves to be a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Are we? Not yet. Our Human Development Index is 140 out of 191. Our our GDP per capita is 139 out of 193. 9 out of the top 10 most polluted countries in the world are here. 80 crore Indians, ladies and gentlemen, live on 5 kilos of grain a month, the bare minimum. I could go on and on, but I will not. Because this debate is not about statistics or semantics. I would love nothing more than stand before this house and say that we've arrived. Because my daughter right there, 8 years old, is in this house. Our colleagues have daughters here. I would like nothing more than for them to believe that they were born in the greatest nation in the world. But ladies and gentlemen, arrival is not what we claim, it's what we owe. And if anything, we owe our children the truth. If we stand here today and say that India has arrived, we are doing a huge disservice to what the world will look like when India truly, deeply arrives. Because I hope and I'm confident that India's arrival will not mirror the arrival of the other global superpowers. I hope our arrival will be benign, with our democracy intact, our development inclusive, global peace, prosperity, fraternity, solidarity, the ideals that we still continue to stand for. Calling it too soon, ladies and gentlemen, will cost us that next generation. And we simply cannot afford to lose one more generation to the comfortable hypocrisy of Mera Bharat Mahan, while we look away from the air our children breathe, the news they read, and the millions of futures that we deny to their peers. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that my daughter loves watching the peacock dance, but what we owe our children is to grow up hearing the tiger roar, and I have no doubts that they will. What we have before us is an opportunity of a lifetime, but until we seize it, I rest my case.
Thank you so much. We have a question here. When India demonstrates strategic autonomy in military procurement and foreign policy decision despite pressure from traditional powers, and recent COVID, we were supplying vaccine to the world. That was a crisis. Were we still the peacock who was just dancing?
Great question, thank you, but proves my point, ma'am. When you say that you survive the pressures of the world and hold your own, you do justice to what you owe your people, but you're not the one setting the rules. Who would dare pressurize the United States today? We've never heard the US, despite pressure from India, could stand there and sign that deal. Arrival would mean not playing by the rules, but rewriting them. And I don't think we're there yet. For COVID, once again, no one's denying that India is a great power in the making. It was absolutely fabulous what we did, not just with production of vaccine, but exporting it. But the fact of the matter is that the global imagery that remains is of the second wave when we were short on oxygen. We were not a part of the patent rights. We were not a part of the global supply chain on COVID vaccines. And that's why I'm saying arrival will look, when arrival happens, ma'am, you and I will not be in this room debating. The world will be a glorious new platform.
Right. We have another question here.
Yeah. Hi, thank you. So my question is, you said that leadership doesn't mean just influencing, right? It means fear. I strongly disagree with that because, and I have two case in points here. You mentioned that US and Russia, right? So when US withdrew its forces from Afghanistan,
remember to keep it
yeah,
brief.
26,000 Afghani nationals were killed, including women and children. Is that leadership? Is that something that you look up to? Russia has annexed 7 countries in the past 7 or 8 years. Does that mean that it's a global leader? I hardly think so.
Nor do I, which is why I said, I hope when India arrives, our arrival will be different from the arrival of the West. I hope our arrival will be benign, it will be inclusive, it will be democratic, it will be respectful. Coming back to your point about if arrival is fear, I said no, arrival traditionally has altered the course of history. It has looked either like fear, or like reliance, or like being followed, neither of which India is doing right now. I hope we do it, and I hope we do it in a style that the world deserves, because that's what we're capable of.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now our final team, we've got IP College for Women for the motion, Sumita Devan.
It's the last moment change. I was informed at 6 I have to speak. So,
I'm sorry.
but I'm so glad to be here for the second year consecutively, thanks to Akash. And so I stand firmly in the proposition as the proposition team, saying that India has arrived at the global stage, and I would absolutely congratulate all the fellow debaters and would like to carry forward the idea where some of us mentioned that arrival as a continuum. It's not something that we are de-recognizing what Nehru did, de-recognizing what our previous leaders did in the space of geopolitics, in the space of crafting international agreements, soft power, etc. But just saying that this is one moment in time. We are there, we are here to build more partnerships. We are here to influence more people across the generations. I would like to point out certain facts and figures, some from personal experience. I was just at Raisina Dialogue 2 days before, and seeing the shift from people, the participants, the proportion of participants coming from India vis-a-vis coming from across the globe, gives me immense pleasure to just be at a moment and a place where so many people are there from across the globe trying to come to a geopolitical dialogue which is setting its example straight up high in the world, otherwise like dialogues that we have in Shanghai and US. Similarly, I just had the fortune of meeting Bill Gates a few days ago, and that was because of the one simple example where you see people just as influential who were at the world stage at one point of time and are still influencing decisions. I work for the Indian Parliament, and every single day we get requests for MPs who are in power, MPs in treasury benches, the kind of interaction that the world is seeking with us, the kind of cultural exchanges, partnerships that the world is seeking with us is growing growing more than ever before. I just wanted to include certain points on, we have already established the idea of space diplomacy and how we are leading in sectors as economy and also in, but we've not talked about global food and health security. During the Russia-Ukraine war, India supplied wheat to 18 plus food insecure nations. My fellow colleague also mentioned about vaccines that we have been supplying to the world. And from energy transition, something where one of my colleagues in the administration wonderfully mentioned about the schemes and the work that is being implemented in the domestic space, from energy transition to waste management being carried forward on the global stage as examples. I would also like to establish the fact that India's arrival has to come from the notions of peace, and what our Prime Minister and our Foreign Affairs Minister clearly have stated time and again, that India is the land of Buddha and India is the land of peace, and that's what we are trying to demonstrate across in the globe. And also from global governance to reforms that we have been partnering with our neighbor states, from be it in Quad, BRICS and G20, the Delhi Declaration that was signed, included ideas that are really not talked about in the world. I clearly researched a lot on the handloom policy, and something as small as recognizing the artisans, recognizing the work of female and rural women in self-help groups. things like that, which is so different from what idea of a global leader in US or Russia is. So I clearly believe and support the motion that India has arrived on the global stage, but as a continuum, and it will create more such examples of arrival for the future. Thank you so much.
Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for your insights. I just have one question. Do you think there's a difference between significance at the global stage and central influence at the global stage, which is what having arrived would mean?
I think what you mean to say is the difference between participation and actual influence. Is it that? Yeah, I just, yeah.
I'm just trying to say that the contributions of a country being significant and recognizable, like India being one of the largest, most relevant democracies, has been there since 1947.
Yeah.
But does that equate for you to having arrived at the global stage and having a significant position in the global order?
I think I would second the statements made by presidents of the most powerful countries in the world that have clearly recognized in the last few years what India has been doing, and how, very funnily, Donald Trump said that Modi is a tough negotiator than me. Also, he puts me at, backside. So I think not just from one sector, but several sectors, and the global leadership in those sectors have been constantly reaffirming and have been coming to India, saying and believing in that idea that it is significant, and it's a significant trade partner, it's a significant cultural hub, it's a significant hub for new form of interactions that are developing. So I really think that it's not just a participant, but actually a contributor.
Go ahead.
So, you mentioned about the great work that we're doing with our neighbors across, and genuine curiosity. I just read the other day that China's declared new municipalities in the districts right next to India's border, which we protested. Since you are very close to the parliament and the powers,
Yeah.
what's your view on that?
So I think we have been successful, not exactly successful, but we have been trying to have negotiations with our neighbor countries, but we have also been somebody who has taken a stance where we support peace, where we stand for values of and ethos of peace, and diplomacy rests on that, I think. So we have been doing a good job, I guess.
Thank you so much. And our last speaker for the day, we've got, speaking against the motion, Farouqi College for Women, Aradhana Kashyap.
Hi, I hope I'm audible. Yeah. I'm very proud to stand before you to oppose a motion. This House believes that India has arrived on the global stage. Now, I would really like to thank all my colleagues for the definitions they have given for what arriving means, but I think one key aspect to what arriving at the global stage is also something that's aspirational, where India becomes not just an influencer or at the helm of the order, but also somebody who is looked up to and somebody who's aspirational, something on the lines of what maybe possibly the American dream is. I'm not sure if we have an Indian dream yet. Just to continue with that, I would be arguing on the basis of three aspects on whether or not India has arrived at the global stage. The first being the hard power aspects, which is your tech, military, defense, and And the second thing being the smart power, which is your AI, your geopolitical strategies, how it's shaping the global world, and how it's locating India in the scheme of things. And the final thing being soft power and how it is being used, or whether or not India has that much influence and aspirational value at the global stage. Moving forward, I would like to talk about how India in today's time, just something as basic as a defense budget, right? India spends about $73 billion as opposed to a US or a China that spends exponentially more, almost 10 to 20x times more. Barring that, even without the expenditure that India has with regard to budget, even apart from that, the kind of relations that India has developed or India is going towards with the neighboring countries, where it's strategically losing power instead of gaining it, and does not share good relations with any of the neighbors as of today, which is almost a deterioration from what it used to be. Something that my colleagues spoke about is the fact of how the economy is growing, which is amazing. The economy is growing, but what are we growing towards? Like, what is it that essentially India is focusing on? The 2020-25-6 budget of India was especially reaffirmed focus on something called gig economy. Now, let me define what gig economy is. It is temporary economic opportunities that the people of India will be exposed to, or that they have exposure to already. And the entire economic structure is sort of like molded towards and molded for the gig economy, which again is not a permanent solution to India becoming or arriving at the global stage. The fact that there is so much outsourcing happening in India, and Indians take so much pride in the fact that our demography is such an advantage for outsourcing. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear that India is not known for outsourcing as much as it is known for cheap labor. The outsourcing doesn't happen because we are exponentially skilled, but yes, we are a huge number who are semi-skilled and who are, who can be employed at a much cheaper rate as opposed to anywhere else. And this is something that the countries that are at the global stage are doing to us. In a country that doesn't have, say, proper labor laws and rights for the people, I am not sure how that translates into that country becoming or having arrived at the global stage. Because to arrive at the global stage, you also need to be very, molded in, within yourself. You need to be very, very convergent. I mean, I think the country in itself has to be so self-assured that somebody else cannot come in. We do not play by their rules. The rules are built by us. My second argument, which is basically about the smart power, right? Everybody has spoken about how AI is taking over and AI has taken over. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me please remind everyone that India before 2025-26 did not even think about AI, but now that everybody else, including China, US, has launched and is progressing in the AI domain, India has now finally woken up to the fact that, AI is something we need to invest in, and has finally invested in. It is not something that has happened. The fact that there is a short-sightedness, or the fact that there is not comprehensive understanding of where the world is and where we are at, has also led to this gap of where India is not even close to the idea of maybe, having arrived at the global stage. Finally, I would just like to end by stating that the ultimate aspect of any any country that arrives at the global stage is the fact that you want to be known by your soft power. You want to be known as the dream, right? Like as the aspirational, as the benchmark for everything. The fact that with this, I would like to.
It is open now for questions. Yes, please go ahead.
Speech. Thank you for your speech, ma'am. The sense I got from your speech was that because India has not been doing economically as well as US and China, we have not arrived. But let us not forget that US as a country was built on free slave labor, and China's economic growth has come at a cost of its democracy. Do you think India, in fact, has emerged as a leader for countries that have been trying to emerge out of the damages that colonization did to them? And we have emerged as a very good example of a country that has in fact arrived despite inheriting a very large population and a defunct economy that was left to us after
Stay to the point, please.
Right. Thank you so much. I think if I'm to understand correctly, you are okay. So just three things that I would like to clear out. First is you associated US and China's growth to one, slavery, the second being the compromise with their democracy. And third, you described India as the colonizing, as having inherited from the colonizing power, right? Just a simple answer to this is that this is precisely what I'm trying to say, that India's economic growth, I'm not equating India to its economic growth, because technically based on government data, India is doing brilliantly economically. However, when you look inward and you look at the poverty lines, or you look at where the Indian Indian demography lies or where the Indian employment is happening, you understand that it is all a facade and it's all a gig, right? Because there is no real opportunities of employment anymore. The fact that the Indian state is going or is proceeding towards facilitating gig economy is also to cater to the needs of the superpowers that are there who want cheap labor and therefore would much rather have Indians at a cheaper cost by making them a part of gig economy. Because if you have permanent employment, that also comes with sets of rights and that also comes with labor laws, which probably the gig economy, we don't see it, right? So, yeah.
Right. We have one last question. You said India is exporting only cheap labor. First of all, I don't agree with that, but even if it is true, but China is also exporting goods due to cheap labor. So what do you have to say to that?
Ma'am, just to the point that the fact that you're equating India to China, just the aspect that yes, India's outsourcing cheap labor and so is China. However, you have to understand the fact that China also has a say in the matters of the world order. However, we just become a country that outsources but has no say in it. We participate, we give, but we don't get, nor do we have the space to make a dent in the global stage.
Thank you so much. And with that, we have heard all of our speakers today.
It's a very tough job organizing the event every year. So we bank on the support of our sponsors to do that. We are eternally grateful to them. We are very grateful to our three judges and mainly to our chief guest, Yashovardhan Azad, who was in Bhopal and air dashed to be with us on time. I also want to welcome Professor Simrit Kaur and Dr. Vijay Lakshmi Nanda, the principals of SRCC and Miranda, who are here with us. Best of luck for your teams. The last thing I want to say is that just before the debate started, we had a slight crisis. One of the IP speakers backed out. And their other speaker and their head of their debating society managed to get the replacement speaker within 1 hour. So thank you so much for doing that. And she was not prepared, but great job. Thank you. Kajori, you can, while they are...
Make their final decision. I open the floor up for questions from the audience. Before I open it up, please keep it short, to the point. If you want to ask a specific speaker, please name them or point to them. And if you want to generically ask a question, do so and I will open it up.
Very exciting. Some of you applauded the achievements of the Indian democracy and some of us pointed out the flaws. What really didn't come out very strongly is what is this global stage? America is today following an isolationist policy. Europe is scrambling to save its own backyard. So what global stage are we trying to occupy? This is a question for this group. Highly optimistic, some of you pessimistic, but there's no party to go to.
Right, does anyone want to take that question? Yes? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for your question, ma'am. So, ma'am, I think we all agree as panelists, arriving at the global stage would really mean that we are in a position to actually not just have a seat at the table, but maybe have an influential seat at the table. Of course, we understand that India today does not have a permanent seat at the UN Security Council, but at the same time, it does not mean that India is not really in a position to influence the state of affairs or influence what is happening globally through its diplomatic relations, right? Even during the Russia-Ukraine war, India might not be a direct party to, mediate the talks, but at the same time, India did influence. Similarly, India is still playing a role in terms of the Israel-Palestine issue, right? So it does not mean that India is just playing on the sidelines. It means that India does have a seat at the table, though not a permanent UN Security Council seat, but at the same time is in a very strong position to influence what other countries may do, and which it has been doing very successfully in the past 10 years, in the past decade, I feel.
Sure. And would you like to add to that? Yeah. You see, the bar is not about waiting for an invitation. It's about creating your own table. The UNSC is a relic of the post-World War II power politics. And India's influence is undeniable. whether or not we get a permanent seat, the world is already treating us like a global leader. Why? Because in India speaks, the world listens, and I think that's the real power. Right, we have a question here now. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm Bhashmati Mukherjee. Miranda decided to analyze where have we emerged and in which direction. Are we going back to the Westphalian order, or do you want to be in the new global order? Because in the Westphalian order, you have a defunct Security Council. In the global order, which is emerging, we have a position. The second, which I wanted to say was, we are on the way of becoming a developed country. So in my perspective, those who put up this topic should have said, is India on the right path to emerging as a major power in the new global economy? Thank you, Kajal.
Thank you so much.
To this side, I mean, it could probably should have been in the right direction. And I think both your questions, what's the stage that we're talking about? I think the way I would look at this definition is, at the very least, the stage is what is our own aspiration for ourselves. Forgetting about what, being at a table or being at a world order. Do we believe we've done honestly what we could for our people? At the very least, that should be the start.
Administration having Indian people in its own vicinity. So do you not think, and all across the world, do you not see is that a strength of the Indian diaspora?
I think there is no absolutist answer to that. Like you're right, some people are leaving because they're brilliant, but many are leaving because they don't have hope. I work in the education sector and I do help a lot of students who are going abroad. I can tell you many of them go at post-grad level, don't want to come back. Let me give you another statistic. Every hour, 10 Indians illegally try to enter America. I don't think anybody is calling them.
Right. Any further questions? We can take one more before we're out of time and I hand it back over to Ravi. Yes, we've got a question here. The gentleman in blue.
So the kind of heat we are expecting, the kind of trees which have gone from the neighboring areas, Kidwai Nagar and all those, wherever we have developed new areas. So if someone can comment on that. Thank you.
Any comments on sustainable development and what that means in the context of this topic? Yes, go ahead.
I think definitely a very relevant question, and sustainable development is a theme that in general India has engaged with a lot, both at home and abroad. But I understand your concern since we haven't been able to adequately speak about it. There is anecdotal evidence of success cases, especially at the grassroots level, about how India has done really well. But at the larger international level, since this debate is about the global stage, there is a question of whether India has been able to adequately put forward its point in climate advocacy, like I spoke about briefly, of equal but differentiated responsibilities. I think India is at a position now where it's in a fix, where we both have to take action for our citizenry and the active harm it's doing to citizens of India, but at the same time not take up all the burden of this transition from the developed countries, of course, a lot of this lack of development. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And now I pass it back to Ravi to take the proceedings forward. Ravi.
No, put it to vote first.
So I put the motion to vote. Do we stand with the House? Do the ayes have it? Those who agree with the motion, please say aye. Those who disagree with the motion, say aye. I think that the ayes have it. Against the motion, takes it.
Thank you so much for a very invigorating debate. And thanks to Kajori for, as usual, conducting it very efficiently. Thank all the speakers. I would request our chief guest, Mr. Yashovardhan Azad, to come and say a few words. And before we get into the results.
Ladies and gentlemen, as is the norm, I should also give my profile. Yashovardhan Azad, like Tota, 70 to 73 BA, Hindu College, 73 to 75 Delhi School of Economics with Bhashmati Mukherjee, and then in the IBS. Today's debate, I think we nearly arrived at the theme of debating the subject. Uh, you know, each one of you is very good in presenting arguments. And rather, each one of you were inching towards that, you know, what should be defined as a global stage. Are we talking about global influence? Are we talking about global impact? Are we talking about global strength? Whenever we have a debate, first thing is the assumption. What do you assume? Lay down your premise. What are you actually debating? What do you mean India arriving at a global stage? You should have said, what is a global stage? You should have defined that. For example, there could be, do you think that it should be a nuclear power? Do you think it should be the first in Olympics? Do you think it should have the highest per capita income? Do you think it should have the diplomatic strength? Do you think it should have the air power? And then you take a set of 10 indicators which you feel is normally approved of, and then say, because it's very important. I mean, how do you define the global power of America, as somebody rightly pointed out? I mean, is it the power to bomb, you know, Gaza indiscriminately and allow Israel to do it? That is also kind of a power. Is that the kind of global stage you want to reach? Or you're talking about the members of the Security Council who have everything. There are countries like Israel who punch beyond their, you know, weight. And they do it very, very successfully. So it's defining the premise. I remember I had gone to Kanpur, IIT, for a debate from the Delhi School of Economics. And I was chatting with Pawan Verma, my friend. I said, "Kya bolu? Samajh to aata hi nahi." Because the topic was, if God would build a house on earth, people would throw stones at it. So I started talking in semantics first, of course. Whether the assumption itself is absurd, then the logical consistency of the arguments, and then I ended up saying, this is like saying, if dog were to be a cat, it will behave like a rat. I got the prize. I think only because of this sentence. But anyhow, I think when we started the Titans debate about 10 years back, though Principal Saiba of Hindu College is telling me that we started actually in the centenary year of 1999. And after that, there were gaps. And I remember speaking in the inaugural ones, in the second tranche of that. And I saw my friend Pawan speaking, I was speaking, a very, my friend Uday's sister, very senior IS officer, we were all speaking. But we were swept away by the tide. The youngsters who came from SRCC, I mean, they were tops, we came last. So some of the arguments I heard today were really fresh, were really good. And each one of them were pointing towards what should be a real global power, or what should be a global stage. But I must commend the LSR speaker. And the LSR speaker, that lady, yes, she's one who actually tried to arrive at the subject and give a kind of a criteria. She spoke very well, and I'm not biasing the judges because the results are already out. And you did well. You answered well. You spoke very well. Brilliant. I mean, I congratulate you. And your partner helped you adequately. So thanks a lot. I hope you all enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's a terrific topic and a great one to debate. Thanks a lot.
May I request Dr. Kavita Sharma and our Secretary Ajay Verma to join us here for the prize distribution. request Kavita and Ajay to present a memento to our chief guest, Yashwardhan Azad. Show singing. And now Dr. Kavita Sharma will announce it.
Thank you. Before I announce the results, I want to thank all the participants here. And I want to thank the principals. This year, and I want to thank Akash Banerjee. Because I passed the baton on to him, and usually I used to be struggling. This year he was struggling. Till Ravi said that there is a couple of people I need to talk to, which I did. But thank you, Akash. And I know you had a lot of issues that you were grappling with at home, but thank you very much. I want to thank the principals. I know it is a very difficult job. And Vijay Lakshmi and I had a long conversation on how hard it is to find, debaters year after year. So thank you, Vijay Lakshmi, and thank you, Dr. Kaur. Okay, results. The judges I saw were struggling because it was such a close call, which means the debate quality was excellent. And so, with that, maybe I should first announce the individual. And among the individuals, the number 2 is Piyush Chopra from Miranda. To guess, but I will tell you, and that is Danish Farouqi. I think you can already figure out who are the best teams, but let me tell you, the number 2, second best, is Miranda House. Number one, I think Yasho has already let the cat out of the bag a little bit, is LSR. But I must tell you that when the totaling was done, there was only a 1 mark difference between the two groups. So congratulations to all those who came, who participated, who won, and I'm sure we will have another wonderful event next year. There was a little bit of a debate among ourselves when Yasho said, is this the 10th or the 11th? And that's how I said that we started in the centenary year when I said we should do something about the alumni. And then there were some gaps because centenary was 1999 and this is 2025. So obviously we had some gaps. But I think we need to check out, is this the 10th or the 11th? I just said it must be the 10th. If Ravi says it's the 10th, it's the 10th. But we should check it out. So thank you very much, and thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Ajay. Thank you very much. And thank you all of you.
Women who went to a lawyer make a will for me. So that lawyer made a will for him. The fisherman went to the lawyer and said, what have you done? So he explained, as you wanted, I've given this to him, given this to her, and explained it all. So in the end, the fisherman said, but you have left nothing for me. And that's my situation here. Everything has been said. There's nothing for me to do except thank you all for coming here and request you all to enjoy your drinks and dinner. Thank you.
I stand corrected. LSR has won it for the 3rd year in a row. So they have equaled Hindu's record, which won it for 3 years. Can we request all our participants and judges? And we want to thank
I want to thank Farouqi for being such a wonderful host. Habitat Center allows us their space and allows us to host the debate year after year. So thank you.
Yes, please. Face visible नहीं है, visible नहीं है. ठीक है? हाँ जी, yes, very good. Yes, everyone look here, look here. Yes. Wait. Wait. Ma'am, look here. Thank you.